Hello my friends and welcome back to our continued blind let's play Bravely Default HD where the fairy flies. My name is FlightlessBird, this is your service gaming channel, and today we're gonna take a slightly different turn on the game because Danielle mentioned to me in the comments. By the way, thank you Danielle for everything, really appreciate you. Thank you Andrew, really appreciate you. Thank you everyone else who is watching. But mentioned that I have not gone through the journal. That's something I should probably do. Even if it's slightly the same, you never know. There may be something new in there. So let's go ahead and read a lot today and dive into the lore of Bravely Default. Let's do this. Hope you're all having a wonderfully fantastic, awesome day today as we look at Dee's journal. Dee's journal has 128 pages. But yeah, Alternis Journal, the Journal of Dark Knight Alternis Dim, has 240. That's twice? Yeah, that's twice what we saw. So that means that there should be very different information here. So like I said, I want to go through this entire journal, all 240 pages. In one sitting, which I can do. I play a lot of visual novels. I'm good. So sit back and enjoy as we read the journal. First off, 9-1. The Council of Six ship Dark Knight weighed anchor today. Our destination Anchime. That marks the first entry of my fourth journal kept since my tenure as an officer began. Apparently I'm off to a bad start. I can't read already. Ah! My current mission, to collect the airship newly developed in Anchime's secret shipyard. I am to transport the Skystone given to me by the Grand Marshal and see it installed, rendering the new vessel skyworthy. I just set a southeastward course and noticed my coffee's gone cold. I had it cleared away. The view beneath me is a sea of clouds, its eastern edge taken on a ruddy tinge as my fresh cup is brought. The aroma is one of my day's few luxuries. 9-6. I have come to the Profiteer Merchant's secret shipyard in Anchime. Work installing the Skystone within the new built ship I'm to collect is at a standstill. 3 days of waiting. The heat is stifling, and the coffee drowned in sugar. I hate this place. It's to be called the Escalot. I'm surprised the first word from India's lips upon seeing the blueprints has become its official designation. I'd braced for another night of catnapping in the sweltering dock, but just received word the Skystone is set and sealed. The ship's main of flight is the Florcham Sea, where the ship I rode here is birthed. While it lacks the horsepower of a heavy cruiser like the Dark Knight, the ship is nimble and its design pleasing. I find myself quite taken with it. Following her test flight to the Florcham Sea, the Escalot has begun seafaring tests. I am confident the ship's power, speed, maneuverability, and defenses all meet the requirements laid forth by the Sky Knights. The airship originally assigned to the Sky Knights suffered damage along the initial incursion into Caldisla and crashed. The mission to tow the newly complete Escalot to Caldisla's Latana Villa will commence in 1 month's time. It will be Adia's first sortie. It falls on me to spend the next 10 days overseeing thorough testing of the craft's ability to withstand the Sky Knight's rough handling. The steel airlock creaked shut behind me. Footsteps investigating the noise drew close for a moment, but soon faded. I lowered myself into bed with a sigh. My right hand unconsciously drifted to the back of my head. There, beneath my pillow, it fell upon a picture frame. Within it, a disheveled room filled of scrap iron, oil stains, and a single beautiful flower. Aww. He really loved Adia. My beloved Adia. I pine for the chance to see a smile unfurl across his face set in equal parts courageous fire and innocence. I long to hear a voice, sweet like a spring breeze. Let it speak my name, and I shall die, happy man. I can hear the nervous shuffling outside my door as someone afraid to disturb me. Not afraid enough, it seems. I returned the photo to its hiding place and answered without bothering to conceal my irritation. I'm awake, what is it? I skimmed the manual I had been given, then tossed it on the bed. I returned to Adia's smile, perfectly preserved within the picture frame. The Escalot. My lips formed the word time and time again as I watched the new ship in tow from the cabin porthole. 9:24. I make for Caldisla aboard the airship Dark Knight. I entrusted a subordinate with the task of towing the Escalot to Dutchy waters. and now sailed to give word to the Sky Knights. It was late afternoon by the time we moored at the Latana Villa's air duct. Ah! Is this our new boat? It's so black and punchy. As I descended to the villa roof, I was met with the loudest misunderstanding I've ever encountered. What? Why send our new ship back to the duchy? We're here, man. Bring it to us. Bring it. Or just give us this one. Either or. Constant shouting aside, Barris Slayer's point is utterly reasonable. To him, at least. One assumes. But he's not getting my ship. Hey, kid, you made it. When I reached the villa's study, I was greeted with a rough slap to the back from Heinkel, captain of the Sky Knights. He continues to treat me like a boy despite my superior rank. Strangely, I don't really mind. Arguing with him is a waste of time regardless. 2 hours later, I sit down to a table laid heavy with a feast. What began as a welcome celebration for me ended in a horror show of Barris's inhumane appetite and Heinkel and Holly's tag team drinking. Adia will serve in Omnius's unit. I was sobering up on the balcony when Heinkel came to deliver that news, leaving me wholly flustered. I could see his grin from the corner of his eye as he raised his glass in a mock toast. Knight Agent Heinkel. Knight Argent Heinkel. Tales of his feats go back before the duchy's founding. He holds the Grand Marshal's trust to the point of once serving as captain for his personal guard. For some reason, this hero has taken an interest in me from a young age. I owe him more than I can hope to repay. Heinkel's proposal would have been confusing enough without the exquisite hangover clouding my brain. I asked who was mad to suggest infiltrating the Caldissa Castle town. His reply came with a laugh. He didn't seem to think so when he volunteered for the job. I should have smelled the trap when he brought that flagon out to the balcony. Going under cover all alone for little Adia's sake? Oh, what a man. I might swoon. Leave it to Holly to smell blood in the water and join in the teasing. Just leave me alone. Yes. Yes! Charge into enemy territory and single-handedly smash everything. Strategy! Where do I even begin with Barris? Also, his voice is splitting my head in two. And why is he performing maintenance on my ship? It may be black, but my armor is hardly subtle. So off comes a helmet for this mission. I'm leaving my sword as well. Wait, am I seriously going through with this? I was dropped a ways away from the city, told away to spec signal, and with that, my ship left for the villa once more. I wonder what the asterisks mean in the journal. I hurried, 9:26 the next day. I hurried for the capital as the sun dipped below the Norende Plateau. My steps are unnervingly light without my armor, and these clothes hang oddly on me. Most of all, I feel naked unarmored. I was greeted at the sea's edge by the sound of a whistle marking the arrival of a merchant ship. Between the merchants and wholesalers, the dock workers unloading crates, the tired crewmen, and the eager children excited by the exotic wares, the port was buzzing with people. As I pushed my way upstream through the crowd and along the avenue toward the palace, I spotted a splendid building, its roof a rich navy. This must be the inn the old fisherman described. Inside, I found a man with a gentle mien, standing behind a well-polished counter. I asked after any vacancies, but he replied with a chagrin, "Sorry, we're full up tonight." It feels quiet for a full inn, but I don't suppose I can blame him. A walking customer at this hour, clearly non-local, no one to vouch for me. Any respectable innkeep would offer some version of the same excuse. When I inquired after the place to eat, he sat down by the port. There should be a cheap pub catering to sailors that's open until morning. Lovely, back down I go. At the hill's bottom, I ate my fill at a food cart aimed at drunken sailors. Now it's back up to the inn. I refused to spend the night kept awake by carousing seamen. I let myself into the empty house next to the inn. I'll just have to sleep lightly. 9:27. I was awakened by the sound of sword practice, shouts of exertion, and the pleasant smell of toast. One of the king's guards, perhaps? Looks about my age and reasonably skilled. I lay in my makeshift bed, lazily counting its swings. Hurry up, Owen, you'll be late. Upon hearing the innkeeper's words, the youth replied and made his way down from the misty hilltop and into the inn. The scent of breakfast coming from next door has me drooling. One bite of my rock-hard bread brought me back to reality. The bacon burnt coal black, and the murky bit of coffee made me wish I hadn't. I suppose I could expect no more from a shabby stand in the port. After choking down the fill, I climbed the hill toward the palace. Supplied by a series of lush waterways, Caldissa was once a formidable city fortress. These days, its hooked central avenue is lined with a magical shop, general store, armory, and other business. A large gate stands as a vestige of the area, though now it serves mostly as the site for the town bulletin board. This year's boar hunt is set to begin once the final slot is filled. Weapons provided by the hunting committee. A boar hunt? With the duchy attacking? I was speechless. As I made to leave, I felt someone grasp my shoulder. This fellow says he'll join the hunt. We ride today. I turned. Shock and irritation lay bare, only to find Owen, the young man I had seen practicing in the fog that morning. My initial protests were drowned in a rising cheer, and as the smith handed me a broadsword and buckler, I humbly accepted. Pushes from the town chemist followed. Between their expected smiles and Owen's grin, I found myself unable to say no. On the road, I was told a litany of facts I cared nothing about. The search for food to fatten up before hibernating apparently drives the giant boars to local farms, where they raid crops and injure workers. As a result, the city gathers volunteers each year to hunt them. As captain of the guard, I discover, responsibility for overseeing the hunt falls upon Owen. The armor was slated to participate, but a leg injury has him on crutches. Owen says he was searching for a replacement when he found a promising candidate during his morning practice. Oh, lucky him. We walked with a full, tiring day stalking our prey. First the trader gave out, then chatter dried up between the two young castle guards. Sunset found us upriver from the city at the entrance to Renderende Cavern. Just as we decided to make camp, a rustling came from the thickets behind us. The boar that leapt out was indeed a giant, vicious, one-tusked monster that had survived the last year's hunt. In a flash, it gored one of the guards, then the other, leaving only Owen, me, and the trader. The boar stamped the ground, preparing to charge the old man, now paralyzed with fear. I expect we'd all given up hope for the kindly old merchant, when the beast suddenly changed course. With only seconds to react, Owen landed a mighty blow, felling the monster in a single strike. Nice shot, Owen. I set about treating the young guard's injuries. The trader, clearly still worked up, narrated Owen's victory to the two boys. With every reverent word, I felt as though I was being derided as useless. The others took to sleep, while I sat watch to keep the fire going. Owen rose and came to sit beside me. Thanks for before. I kept silent, but he pressed on. Oh, look at that. The boar only changed targets because you circled behind me and channeled your energy at it. It's thanks to you we're not cutting home a corpse. He sat waiting, apparently bent on receiving a response. His grin is infectious. I took the shortest course of action, I replied as I held aloft my broadsword. I had my doubts this blade was up to the task. The weapon's edge was chipped in places, its length bent. With a gentle shake, the pommel gave an unsettling rattle. Owen burst into laughter at the noise. Apparently my response passed muster. He continued, his grin never flagging. Starting tomorrow, you'll stay at my place. I'll give word to my father to open a room for you. I was dragged on this hunt, but if it earns me a real breakfast, it's a bargain I'd take gladly. 9:28. The Inca's voice and the smell of coffee being laid on the table roused me from my thoughts. If I'm Ancham, eh? You'll be wanting extra sugar then. Politely declining, I took a sip. Quality beans, roasted to perfection. Exquisite. After the hunt, we carried the wounded back to town. We tied the boar to a high tree branch. Owen said that townspeople would come for it later. After seeing to the boy's treatment, Owen invited me to his home, the inn. Savior was the title he used when introducing me to his father. I was mortified. I was on a journey of personal discovery, originally come from Ancham. They bought my arbitrary lies without hesitation. They welcomed me. That evening, we dined early and well. The boar had been carted back to town and our share of the meat filled a table. Once Owen returned from the palace, we sat down to feast. The innkeeper is a brilliant cook, and we ate, drank, and reveled into the night. Come by my palace tomorrow. I want you to meet the king. He repeated himself time and time again, words slurred from the wine, despite my pretending to be asleep. 9:29. I stood before the king of Caldisla. Owen seemed determined to drag me into king's service. It's a mercy he didn't know he was speaking to one of Alternis' council of 6. I expect the embarrassment would be crippling. The Caldislan king lacks any presence. Any fire. Outside and in, he's just utterly common. If I were to kill this man where he stands, would it aid Idea? Remembering that I'm unarmed and that Owen isn't, nips any potting in the bud. After regaling the king with tales of my valor, he pushed as far my appointment to the king's guard. I parry with a roundabout excuse. Perhaps the king mistook my hesitation for modesty, but he did not press the point. The audience ended and Owen schemed with it. I left the palace surreptitiously, noting the number of guards, the equipment, and any other indication of Caldisla's might. To be blunt, Owen is the only real obstacle here. Given Heiko's strength, I expect he could take the kingdom by brute force if necessary. 10-3, a couple days later. I've been at Caldisla a week, with no sign of the smoke signal. I join Owen in his training some mornings with walk the city streets, chat with the elderly, drink with the sailors at the docks, arm wrestle the drunks. Mostly I just pass the time. Today was another peaceful afternoon, the same as any other. Owen was at the palace since morning. I was enjoying a cup of the evening innkeep's coffee. It happened in an instant. I felt as if someone was set to plunge a knife into my back. I turned and saw a window. Through it, the northern sky was on fire in a flash of pure white. Moments later, the inn shook. An earthquake? A shockwave? All of Caldisla trembled. The innkeep moaned about a set of heirloom teacups breaking. I had my doubts that teacups would be the worst of the damage. Outside, I spied some injured people, but the city and palace stood unharmed. Another flash lit up the sky to the northwest. Close. The Norende Plateau, perhaps. 10-4. It wasn't the following morning that Owen came home. By the time he finished running about his morning training, he was snoring. A knock at his door put an end to the brief rest that afternoon. The river's jammed with rubble. After receiving the scout's reports, Owen wrote down the late breakfast his father had ready, then turned to me. Sounds like I might need a hand later. I nodded, eyes fixed on the northwestern sky. The bridge across the Caldisla River has lain in ruins since the Duchy felled it. Now, a flotilla of further rubble and countless corpses approach from upstream. Upstream means the Norende Canyon, and the village of Norende at its source. I suppose that's our epicenter. Owen and I split up and joined the others searching for victims. Owen's team searched the river's mouth, while I gathered men from town to search further upstream. I have a long sword at my side, a new one this time, in good condition. Seems the smith's been busy. The armorer, the old trader, and a dockhand joined me on the shadowy path through the canyon. A few paces in, the armorer spotted something floating by. A young man floating face up and snagged on the rocks. It's Tiz. We ran to his side. He's breathing. The boy's alive. While the others rejoiced, I was more concerned with the ominous shadows surrounding us. Goblins? What are monsters doing here? There ought not to be monsters so close to human settlement. Not in these numbers. The townspeople were clearly overwhelmed. No doubt this was their first such encounter. I hesitated, unsure for a moment, but no, I had to take action. When I get this signal, hoist this boy out of the and sprint for the canyon's mouth. Is that clear? I now returned from each of them. Sudden movement would distract the creatures for a moment. I hope that's all I need. Now, go! Thankfully, both merchants escaped, as well as a dockhand with the unconscious boy across his shoulders. Left alone, I faced a quickly closing circle of enemies. Hold on, I just lost my page. Ah, there we are. Never mind. So be it, I thought. Come closer then. A bit more. A deep growl emerged from my chest. Black Bane! When I emerged from the canyon on shaky legs, I was greeted by those anxious faces. It was this fellow that saved me, I said, holding aloft the badly worn longsword. A huge proud grin threatened to split the armorer's cheeks. We hurried the boy back to town. I carried him to the inn. I need spirits and all the bandages you got, and Gramps, all the potions you got too. I laid him in the bed by the window, stripped him down, and had a look at his wounds. Thankfully, they were light, though he still showed no signs of stirring. Owen's group returned soon after, a few of his men wounded. They had run into monsters as well, leaving men to guard the gates. He made for the palace to report and formulate a plan. When he came by to deliver the medicine, the old trader remarked that the boy's clothing bore an Norende pattern. A few days later. 3 days the boy has stayed at the inn and still no sign of waking. The innkeep says he's run a fever the entire time. The afternoon is a warm one. Now I'm watching the innkeep nod off at the counter. The aftershocks have stopped, and peace is slowly returning to the city. But a shadow lingers over the earth, the sky, and the townspeople's hearts. Glancing around the window, I saw people rushing toward the port. Another merchant ship, I thought, but no. The shouts were anxious, not excited. I stepped outside. Following the gaze of the others in the street, it was a merchant vessel I saw drifting into port. But something was wrong. The ship was listing hard, its aft mast broken. I sprinted down the hill. As I ran, I noticed a dark, heavy color spreading through the water from the mouth of the bay inward. I caught snippets as I passed. The seas began to rot. Ships can't leave the bay. No fish in the last few days. A few days? Then the change began when the quake hit. The ship listed further rescue boats surrounding it. Most of the cargo had already been cast overboard. When the boats reached the pier, a parade of passengers and crew emerged, each looking more exhausted than the next. By some miracle, there were no lives lost, though most of the freight followed the ship to the bottom of the bay. The merchants mourned the lost profits and the crew of their vessel. The seamen had lost their sea and passengers were now stranded. Despair ran rampant, except for one young girl. It's Agnes. She was full of questions. About the quake 4 days prior. About the flash that lit the sky. About Narende. Did you know someone in the village? Family, perhaps? Her jaw set at my query. Was it anger? Fear? She wordlessly shook her head from side to side. No, I just figured. Hearing you ask about the quake so soon after withering the sea, I thought maybe you were a friend of that boy's. Boy? What boy? Came her reply. Suspicion played on her face, but as the next boats reached the pier, we were shooed out the harbor. Another visit from Ancham, huh? You must be tired. Why don't you stay with us till you settled? Huh. I recall a different sort of greeting. I cast a sour smile his way and responded with a grin. We have a sick one in the back. I hope you don't mind. The girl replied with a nod. Her name, I learned, was Agnes. She seemed guarded about her past. Not that I can talk. Conversation continues to be awkward. She shows interest in what was happening in this country when the quake hit. For my part, I asked her about the sea. Her ship had left before the earthquake struck, she says, about halfway between Ancham and Kaldisla. Their pace began to slow. The seawater clouded and dead fish began to float to the surface. First small ones, then larger. As they neared the port, the wind died. It was pure luck the ship drifted in before going calm. Other vessels they pressed in the bay, she reported, were less fortunate. She listened as I recounted what happened in the canyon, the color draining from her face. I told her the village was likely at the quake's epicenter, and that monsters had flooded the area in its wake. We walked late into the night. Aww. Actually, a really nice guy overall. 10-8. As the morning mists cleared, I saw a trace of a smoke signal hanging in the southwestern sky. I ate breakfast, the same as any other day, and saw Owen off to work. I owe him a greater debt than he knows, and a few apologies. After one last cup of the innkeeper's coffee, I departed. Out for another one of your walks? Asked the old trader as I passed. Something like that, was my reply. I handed him what money I had, and asked him to bring whatever medicine I brought to the boy later. With the city behind me, I broke into a run for the lake to the southwest. Along the way, I encountered 3 packs of monsters. Longsword I'd been given broke midway through the third. I arrived to find the Dark Knight moored and waiting. Aboard the ship, I donned my jet black armor and helm for the first time in 2 weeks. With my trusty blade hung at my side, I made for the bridge. There, the crew informed me of our return orders. My new mission is to survey the changes occurring throughout the world, and to report them to the council. The report on Kaldisla had already been sent from the Latana Villa. Their conclusion, that the great chasm that appeared beneath Narende was both cause and effect of the quake. No threat in region save Captain Owen's blade. After firing off a way to Heinkel, I gave order to return to Eternia. As we neared the crags, I received an urgent wire from Ancham, the one vessel missing. A description of the ship she was thought to have taken followed, as well as its destination. Surely not, I thought, but the facts aligned. Agnes, the vessel of wind? I sent another wire to Heinkel, and a copy home to the council. In reply, I received word that Adia had been charged with her vessel's apprehension. The operation begins tomorrow. I had hoped to send her off on her first mission, a shame. 10:25. An urgent wire from Galdissa came during the night. Sky Knights routed, airship stolen by vessel and accomplices. Adia believed among the ranks. Look at that picture. Gorgeous artwork, so amazing. And to think he drew this. He's really talented. 10:26. The Knights of the Eternian Sky, 4th Division of the Eternian Forces, is lost. More than anything, it was Heinkel's defeat that shook the ranks. Shook me as much as anyone. As I summarized what information I had, local news reports arrived to provide more detail. One bore the headline, Vessel of Wind breezes into Kaldisla. 1016. The vessel, joined by Tiz Aurora, survivor of Nerende, promised the king they would rout the Duchy Sky Knights. Days later, she thwarted the Eternian siege and beat their men at the lake to the southwest. Why does it say 1016 in quotes like that? Tiz, that boy. 1016. In recognition of her sparing the land from the Sky Knights' cannons, Caldissa's king offered her his full support, swearing to send his full force north to strike the duchy's base pending the bridge's repair. That battle saw Barris and Holly face the vessel. They were good soldiers. 1018. The Wind Vessel and Tiz Aurora set out for the ruins of Central Keep to defeat the mage responsible for torching Caldissa's castle town. Seeing an opportunity in the vessel's absence, the duchy struck the palace by airship, slaying the captain of the guard and abducting the king. 7 days after the keep's fall, the vessel and the 3 accomplices struck Lantano Villa and absconded with the Escalot. Eyewitnesses' reports confirm that Heinko lured them aboard the ship and that they engaged in combat. The knight's whereabouts are presently unknown. A guardsman on the day of the attack claims he learned of Black Mage Omnis's crow's death at the hands of the bloodthirsty vessel through a report from Medea Lee. He opened the gates for her immediately after. Was Medea taken hostage by the vessel and her henchmen? The Council of Six was called, and I delivered the collective findings of my investigation in Caldissa. Orders for the vessel's arrest were sent to Anchime's Kamer and Profiteer Merchantry. 1112. Half a month after giving the order, no word of the vessel's capture has returned. No any certain news of her at all, in fact. One report claimed that she returned to Anchime on the 5th, while another suggests she fled its borders again on the 11th. I've gathered the major reports documenting the changes befallen the world since the chasm's emergence. Multiple sources confirm that, save a few stretches of sea, the oceans all show signs of rot, causing the mass death of marine life and precluding ships from sailing. Next, reports confirm that the westerlies, trade winds, polar easterlies, and seasonal winds have died. No sea breezes, no currents down mountains or thorough valleys. No word as to the cause. And Civil War-torn Eisenberg, volcanic activity has spiked, resulting in massive casualties. Even with the duchy, reports claim the crags are rising. The effect this bears on air currents is under study, yet no conclusions have yet emerged. Victor has theorized that the crystals of fire, water, wind, and earth have all entered a state of quasi-dormancy in the wake of the chasm's appearance. After delivering my report to the council, the Grand Marshal gave me direct orders to investigate Anchime. At last, an excuse to look into what's befallen Idea. I was packed within the hour and now right from the Dark Knight's Bridge. 1113. The next day. The floor chime inner sea remains unsullied, and serves now as a holding place for ships from neighboring waters as well. I walked the port asking after the vessel's whereabouts, or those of the ships she stole at least, but she was unable to uncover anything else useful. My continued search brings me to Anchime proper. The ship's almanac has this to say of it: a clockwork metropolis nestled in Arena's sandy bosom. Here, time above all is sacred. A massive timepiece crowns the kingdom, fueled as all Anchime is by the ceaseless winds originating from the temple of the wind to the south. I cross the desert and ride at the sea's edge. It seems these ceaseless winds have ceased in the chasm's wake. Deprived of a precious power source, Anchime's people now suffer under forced manual labor. Those I met with were too tired and apathetic to answer my questions. Perhaps motivated by the coin I flashed, one man I asked stammered this through an awkward blush: to try the Yuliana woods. I reached out to hand him the money, but he turned and ran without taking it. Very odd. I returned to my almanac. Yuliana Woods, the hidden heart of an ancient wood northeast of Anchime. 1122. This makes 10 days of running around Anchime, from the palace to the Temple of the Wind, the harem roads, and back to Anchime. Still no sign of the vessel, and no sign of Idea. Even in the Miasma Woods, sole landroute connecting Anchime with Floram, home of the water crystal, I found nothing of use. After camping in the desert, I have sand in every crack of my armor, making it screech with every movement. Ah, just now, a report from the lookout. A flash in the southern sky. Multiple sources confirm it. By the time I reached the inner sea, details had arrived from the men I left in Anchime. Apparently the light rose from the direction of the Temple of Wind. I have a bad feeling. 1123. The air in front of Anchime's royal palace was taut. The vessel heaped abuse upon the king, then presented something to the agitated masses assembled there. It was a chain bearing an evil sigil. The glassy-eyed mob reached fever pitch. Holding it up. Look at all the people. Huzzah! The vessel pointed south, and the delirious mob turned their eyes to the sky, crying out her name. I moved to approach her, but the zealous crowd was packed tight. Fearing for his life, the king fled to the palace, escorted by the guard. 11:27. Days have passed, and still the people of Anchime form a human wall around the vessel. It seems this person guarding her really is the boy we saved, but still no sign of Idea. Why is there no sign of Idea? That doesn't make any sense. I received word that the vessel has been in contact with Prime Minister Dominus Harina. Fed up with the heat, I shed my armor and patrolled the palace in plain clothes. A voice called out to me from the distance, and a shock raced up my spine. It was Idea! Here she is! What are you seeking around here for, Ring a Bell? Ring a Bell? Who in blazes is Ring a Bell? She ran straight for me. Ah. Interesting. You called, Idea, came a voice from behind me. A moment of panic, I hid in the crowd and fled the area. I emerged near the bazaar and was choking down a cup of sugar water that passes for coffee here when the scout I sent put on Vessel's trail sent word. It seems she and her minions make for Escalop, moored in the inner sea. 11:28. A full day has passed since the vessel boarded the Escalop. It's taken time to load the supplies furnished by the Prime Minister, but it seems that delay nears its end. I boarded the ship alone. None of them suspected a thing. I began with Tiz, striking him unconscious. The vessel screamed. I demanded her name, confirming that she truly is the one from Caldisla. I doubt she recognized me, given my armored state, so this is when he attacked us. Then she appeared from the neighborhood cabin. I waited so long to see her. I reached out to Idea, assuring her that the capture at the hands of the vessel was at an end. The words she spoke then were unthinkable. I don't get it though. Why didn't Idea know? Has Idea never seen him without his armor on? Is that it? I'm not her captive, and she poses no threat. I'm here of my own free will. Was she joking? Temporarily insane? No matter how many times I beseech her, she refused to heed reason. When words failed, she drew her sword on me. Idea threatened to resist if I harmed the vessel. While I have no fear of losing, she's too tough an opponent to subdue unarmed. I could not bring myself to harm the Grand Master's daughter. At a loss, I decided to content myself with hobbling the vessel. I destroyed the Sky Stone, powering the Escalot, and made my escape. Unable to fly and trapped by the putrid oceans, the Escalot is now a prisoner in the inner sea. Idea, a traitor? I must get word of this to Grand Marshal immediately, and discreetly. Ignoring the storm of questions and emotions raging within me, I boarded the Dark Knight and set sail. Shattered crystal. Curse my traitor's tongue. What have I done? In one thoughtless moment, what have I wrought? I gave the council my report on the vessel's actions in Anchime and the Wind Crystal's awakening. Were I not a fool, I'd have stopped there. Victoria's idle suspicions gave way to Victor's inevitable question. I found myself unable to avoid mentioning of Idea. I ought to have delivered the news to the Grand Marshal in private, or at the very least not in the company of those two. They've ever held a grudge for Idea, and I delivered them a perfect excuse to torment her. They even pressed the Grand Marshal for his word that all enemies of the duchy must be killed. And now they make for Florum? They spoke of apprehending the vessel, but I have my doubts as to their true intentions. I begged the Grand Marshal's permission to travel to Florum myself. Perhaps I can enlist Einherjar's aid. It's a gamble I must take. Next day. Good, they haven't come by. I was worried I might run into them here. That would complicate matters. I could do a little more than beg or help in the broadest of terms. Then was back to my ship and away again. Though perhaps a bit out of date, the ship's almanac has this to say of Florum. True to the old teachings, Florum's women live in chaste humility and coexistence with the spirits of nature. And of the land's people, devout Crystallis, they reject war and conflict, instead choosing lives of peaceful reflection. Sounds like a recipe for carnage if those two ever heard those words. 12:30. Like, what, 3 weeks later? Racked with anxiety since Victor and Victoria entered Florum, I decided to reach out to them for periodic reports. The response I received showed Victor's cold conversation, quit meddling. Curse them both! On the other hand, the reports from Einherjar's people on the vessel's doings in the state of Florm are piling up. The vessel was sighted within the city, then in the Temple of Water, and upon her return, she departed once more. Witnesses report a party made for Mount Fragmentum in the east. Only tomorrow remains before the miserable year is over. I can only pray that next brings greater peace. I'll not hold my breath. Wow, a month later. Yeah. After a month of anxious silence, they finally sent a wire. The wind vessel entered the Sacred Flower Festival. What? Einherjar was kind enough to elaborate in a report. She suspects the wind vessel's participation in a tawdry beauty pageant is an attempt to make contact with the vessel of water, currently in hiding. At least that makes some sense. 2-3. Word came just before dawn that the Galleon Grand Healer had ignored traffic control directives and docked atop Central Command. The Grand Healer is Victor's personal airship. Victoria will be aboard as well, no doubt. The stunt they pulled docking without permission shows the regard they have for the rule of eternity and law. Any efforts I made to question their intentions were ignored as Victor marched past me to the central elevator, Victoria held in his arms. It seems he made straight for the White Mage circulation hub on the ground level. I found the guards standing watch along the way, bleeding and unconscious. What madness is this? The White Mage circulation hub stands at the east of the first floor of Central Command. Lined floor to ceiling with odd machinery, it has always made me uncomfortable. I found Victoria floating in a chamber of fluids that resembled a great mechanical heart. Victor stood nearby, staring at monitors and muttering. The lecture can wait. He spoke without turning to face me. My report as well. Victoria, try to bear it. He opened some valve and the color of the fluid deepened. I took it upon myself to report Victor's return and Victoria's treatment to the Grand Marshal. I summoned Victor's lieutenant and got the details from him. 2-5, 2 days later. Victor and Victoria remain ensconced in the White Mage circulation hub. Meanwhile, Victor's man offered an account of what had happened. I added his report to the collective findings on Florm. An official account of the event had this to say. June 28th. The vessel Wind appeared in Florm's Sacred Flower Festival wearing full vessel regalia. Though traditionally famed for her piety, the people met her with cold dismissal, and the vessel's pleas were drowned out by the jeering crowd. Years into the Blood Rose Legion's infiltration campaign, prodigious funds and aggressive citizen reprogramming effort have won them near complete control of Florm. The news entity responsible for producing the above report is essentially a mouthpiece of the Legion. Meanwhile, our bulletin from the Orthodoxy struck a different tone. As false rites come to close, the babbling brook's voice reaches the wind. Though it blows west, it cannot sense a shadow close behind it. A coded plea for help from what meager resistance remains, but plainly it states that at the Sacred Flower Festival's end, the water vessel sent word to the vessel of wind. The latter left to meet her, but failed to notice the assassins on her trail. As second such notice followed soon after, the water rises to meet the demon child's light, shielding the air as it vanishes in vapor. Left alone, the winds howl in mourning and rage with purpose. Heh, demon child. An apt description. Seems the water vessel was killed protecting a colleague from Victoria. And Victor's subordinate reported that it was in the battle that followed that Victoria succumbed to a fit, prompting Victor to spirit her back to the duchy. News continues to flood in from Florm, hot on Victor's heels. The same Orthodoxy rag reports that the vessel of wind awakened the water crystal, celebrating the return of the world's oceans to purity. Reports from across the globe corroborate this claim. This marks 2 crystals awakened at the vessel's hands. Victoria is still out and Victor is seen to her around the clock. The council chamber feels barren with only 2 of the 6 in attendance. The air hangs heavy. 2:16, 11 days later. We receive word that the vessel has departed Florm, but none of her destination. The purification of the world's oceans has snapped the tether binding her there. There are those who fret that she's lost for good, but there were only 2 places that she would go. The Crystal of Earth is protected by the Duchy's crags and the bulk of the Eternian forces. It's unlikely she'll head there first. That leaves Eisenberg and the Fire Crystal. I sent word to our man there to be vigilant and received a response from Grand Ship. From the minutes of a sitting of the Grand Ship Council, the vessel Wind and entourage arrived some days ago. The council debated for 5 days' time whether this was to be taken as an official visit or a simple act of tourism. She departed for the west before a conclusion was reached. It seems an agent of the Shield Bearers has also come requesting aid several times, and I doubt she'll find the infamous Sleepy Council any more forthcoming than the Vestal did. Now we'll wait for the Vestal to be squared in the nets, or snared in the nets of the fleet we've placed in the Sea of Corsai. 217 next day. Eisenberg, the vessel's next likely target, in the war-torn theater of the Eternians 1st Division. Those last few days, I've been reviewing the notes from my time there 4 years ago, before my appointment to the Council of Six. Eisenberg, situated south of the Eternian continent. Eisenberg is composed of active volcanoes and sustained by the rich mineral deposits beneath its soil. Mining, refinery, and metal casting are its chief industries, and mithril steel one of its most precious exports. Mithril steel, an exceptionally hard metal refined from locally mined ore. Upwards of 80% of the world's mithril originates in Eisenberg's mines. In rare cases, the same veins have yielded orichalcum. Orichalcum, an extremely precious metal found exclusively in Eisenberg. Its durability is unrivaled, making it ideal for use in weapons and armor. Also notable is the extreme amount of energy released when the metal is melted under high pressure. Civil war has persisted in Eisenberg for 4 years, with the land divided between the Swordbearer and Shieldbearer factions. The Black Blades, the 1st Division of the Eternian forces, assist the Swordbearers, making up the latter's vastly inferior numbers and evening the balance of power in the region. One could say the evils troubling the duchy today had their roots in the outbreak of this war 4 years ago. As allies in anti-crystalism, the duchy had an understanding with the dissident faction known as the Swordbearers for some time. The declaration of uprising came together with an urgent request for aid. It was far earlier than we had expected. We were unprepared. Yet Eisenberg was a stronghold of crystalism, second only to Florum, and the Swordbearers represent the entirety of the nation's anti-crystalism movement. As the philosopher's chief proponent, the duchy could not deny their plea. The Shieldbearers' forces outnumbered the Shieldbearers 100 to 1. The war would end in one swift massacre. The Grand Marshal responded by deploying Swordmaster Kamizumi's 1st Division under the guise of a mercenary band known as the Black Blades. The Blades' pre-dawn infiltration of Eisenberg's borders and the subsequent airship raid were successful. Starkfort was ours by the morning. Not a council member, I was sent to inspect the fortress 2 weeks after its capture, and to compile a dossier on its status and layout. That was when I was first approached by Swordbearer Commander Yumai Astrai. He came with effective thanks for the duchy's support and none too subtle demands that the report I send to the Grand Marshal paint a glowing picture of the uprising. But the fact remains that the rebel leaders acted in haste, and their impudence dragged Eternia into a struggle from which it stood to gain nothing. Their commander for this part was overjoyed, drunk on the Swordbearer's first decisive victory. I could not conceal my mounting frustration at his obvious presumption. Still, no word on the vessel's whereabouts. In the absence of any clues to the way forward, I find my mind again wandering back to Eisenberg. At the war starts, the Swordbearers, well, the Black Blades, earned exceptional results. With a solid victory at their backs, then they wiped out the 100,000 strong eastern arm of the Shieldbearers within half a month's time. The good news ended there. It seems the Blades were struggling more than they let on. They turned to the Temple of Fire. The turn to the Temple of Fire was forced by one subordinate's unauthorized use of lethal poison, covering the battlefield and making continued fighting impossible. Mount Karka's eruption, it later came to light, was due to another member's assassination of the Fire Vestal. By order of the Grand Marshal, the Vestal's death was to be kept top secret. Great care was taken to prevent the news spread. The Blades remained in Eisenberg today, holding the front while searching for a route into the temple to secure possession of the Fire Crystal. As the 1st Division of the Eternian forces, the Black Blades exist to spearhead the duchy's invasion force. In order to facilitate operations in other crystallized strongholds, the Grand Marshal repurposed its personal guard into a newly designated 4th Division, the Knights of the Eternian Sky. The units later remained Knight Agent Hankel. Due to their hasty designation, they were left with an older airship and spent night and day in training for their pending deployment. In time, they would be sent to Caldissa, only to be defeated by the Wind Vessel's hands. At the latest reports, all routes by the Fire Temple remain barred by magma. This leaves us unable to secure the crystal within, but at least ought equally bar the vessel's entrance should indeed come to Eisenberg. The war continues to be at deadlock with both sides entrenched at either end of the Eisen Bridge. But the clearing of the sea has restored previously cut supply lines. But the risk of the vessel's intrusion also caused the possibility to crush the shield bearers once and for all. 3-4. 2 to 3 weeks later? An urgent wire came from the Black Blades in Eisenberg. Wind vessel in Eisenberg. No more codes, no indirection. This is a public announcement, loud and clear. It seems the Swordmaster and India have already crossed blades. Attached to the report was a message penned by Kamizumi himself, confirming the danger he feels the vessel poses to Eternia, and forewarning of the possibility that he will be forced to kill Idia in dealing with this danger. 3:22, 3 weeks later. An urgent report arrived today from Eisenberg. Somehow the vessel has awakened the fire crystal. Swordmaster Kamizumi is missing, and morale among the remaining blades wanes by the day. At this intelligence, left Central Command in an uproar. Further reports arrived from the agent's place in the Shieldbearer camp. I will use this space to gather and sort through them. 3-6. Wind vessel allies with Shieldbearer Commander Goodman, offers to investigate toxic mist. Her party departs presumably for Grap Keep. 3:10. Wind vessel returns to Goodman with the mist sample, proposing it to cast into magma. Goodman agrees. 3:15. Vessel to raid Mythal Mines. Aid urgently requested. 3:18. After capturing mines, vessel takes captured orphan from Starkfurt. She now makes for the Mythal Mines again, purpose unknown. 3:20. Vessel finds passage of Fire Temple at rear Mythal Mines. Signs suggest Crystal Fire has been awakened. Vessel departs Eisenberg. Destination unclear. 4:24. 1 month has passed since reports of the Fire Crystal's awakening. All of Central Command has been busy with the fortification of the Earth Crystal's defenses and enhancing the 3 passages' security. Victoria is still in recovery. Testimony from soldiers returned from Eisenberg and reports from agents within the shield bearers are piling up. Among them, notice from a mechanic aboard the Swordmaster's airship Yagyu. Fearing attack from the vessel, it reads, the commander of the sword bearers stole the ship and fled. Kamizumi must be in a state. Sure, he has a bad reputation, but he tended to win it in the enemies too. It's gotta count for something, right? Black Blade support member. It's our fault. We are tasked with banding together and protecting it. But we lost the concert. Bridge, whatever. Swordbearer Guard, Praline Fan Club. Praline Fan Club. After returning from the banquet, staff officers commenced an army-wide spy purge. This will be my last report. Field Operative Eisenberg. There can be no doubt that the vessel will come for the Earth Crystal. With no means of flight, however, the crags bar her entry into the duchy. Word of the vessel's activities come in from Caldisla and Grandship, albeit sporadically. Our agent at Caldisla offered an especially puzzling update. We'll bring the orphan to the inn we set out from. It seems you travel back and forth from Eisenberg to present a child to Caldisla's king? Meanwhile, Grandship sinking has accelerated, culminating in a mass exodus of the residents. Seems the sleeping council finally managed a swift decision, their own evacuation. Grandship sunk overnight! Our operative there fled along with the residents, sending a shocking notice soon after. The report continues. The council fled, leaving the remaining citizens in panic. Amid the chaos, I saw the vessel and cohorts make for the council chamber. Shortly after, a terrible tremor shook the ship, and I was trampled unconscious by the flood of evacuees. I woke in a lifeboat, half a league from Grandship. A loud explosion followed, and Grandship began to submerge. A second blast followed soon after then. The report suddenly ends there. The vessel's condition and whereabouts are still unknown. May 10th. About a month later. A little less than that. Upon reporting Grandship's disappearance to the Council of Six a few days ago, the Grand Marshal issued orders placing the entire Eternian force on high alert. Grandship has crossed the cracks and entered Duchy airspace. To think, a Leviathan barely able to float could fly, let alone cross mountains accessible only by Galleon-class airships? I have no doubt this is the vessel doing. The vessel and company landed in Southmore, reaching the Frostpeak Passage with disconcerting ease. Upon receiving word of the vessel's arrival in Eternium proper, the Grand Marshal ordered the white magic cable valves shut. There they are. Oh, they look so good, but where is Ringenbell? Shutting off the supply of healing waves from Everlast Tower into Greater Eternia will prevent patients from receiving vital treatment. Among those affected will be the Grand Marshal's wife, Idia's mother. Military assets such as the Tundra Golems and Captive Dragons notwithstanding, the number of actual Eternian soldiers within the duchy's border is woefully small. We are unable to make contact with the division stationed elsewhere. Even ascertaining conditions in this city is difficult under present circumstances. May 20th, 10 days later. 3 passages connect Central Command to the east-west of Eternia, west, center, and east. Being the shortest route, manpower, turrets, and other defenses have been constructed within the central passage. It should be ironclad, the other 2 paths sadly less so. Evacuees from the city have brought news from outside. No one remains, military or civilian, and no combat between the vessel and our forces has taken place. The vessel and Idia entered the central healing tower, paid a visit to the Grand Marshal's wife, and now apparently makes for Central Command. Words of the arrival at Eternia Central Command come in the form of cannon fire. Victoria deployed to meet them with Victor in tow. They were, however, defeated and retreated to the White Magic Circulation Hub. There they gave a noble last stand. He did it. He apprehended the vessel. He had them asleep in an instant and ordered me to deliver Idia to her chambers and the others to the dungeons before he departed for the council chamber. I remember that. I suspect he played some role in the duchy's establishment, the same as the old man. Both hold seats on the Council of 6, though they have stood perennially empty. Did he come to Eternia's rescue in our time of need, or does he bear some other agenda? May 22nd. Idia somehow escaped from her chambers. The guards post at her door claims it did not open once and insists its vigil was without interruption. Now that I think of it, she performed a similar feat once when we were children. After escaping, Idia freed the vessel and her 2 companions as well. The old man played a hand as well, blasting open the door to the dungeons before departing Command Central aboard that old airship. What drove him, a member of the Council of 6, to side with the vessel? Lord DeRosa vanished as well, leaving only myself and the Grand Marshal to remain. Upon their escape, the vessel fled to the city of Eternia before returning to strike Command Central again shortly after. As she passes this point, the Earth Crystal is lost. I made up my mind to fight alongside the Grand Marshal, trying to protect him and his ideals at any cost. My resolve was set, and yet... Aww. Leaving the Grand Marshal alone at the council chamber, I boarded the Dark Knight and set about completing my secret orders. My hands tremble with regret as I write this. The ship's course sets southwest of Eternia. May 29th, a week later. 7 days of standing by above the southern sea since I departed Eternia. I spotted the pillar of light rising in the distance. The Grand Marshal has fallen, the Everlast Tower with him. The Earth Crystal is lost. News of the battle's result came much delayed. As I read the vicious struggle between the Grand Marshal and the vessel's forces and its result, I felt as if my heart were being crushed. I have never known such despair. It seems the Grand Marshal lives, by Lord DeRosa's intervention, but he will never again swing a sword. Still, the knowledge that Idia was not forced to slay her own father gives me some solace. As I awaited the vessel's arrival high above the sea, I saw the Swordmaster's Yagu fly past below, nearly skimming the water. I responded to its swift approach with a demand for the captain's identity. The thick, grating voice that replied was answer enough. It was Umar Astre, the commander of the Sword Bearers. The man who dragged the duchy into Eisenberg's civil war had turned tail and run as fast as his prospects grew faint. A contemptible sham of a leader. When I asked whether the Swordmaster or any Eternian personnel were aboard, I was answered with a hailstorm of bullets. I choked back my mounting rage, opening the order to my gunners to open fire. Minutes later, the remains of the Yagi were sticking beneath the waves stained blood red by the setting sun. How much longer until the vessel arrives at the pillar? 2+ weeks later? How many days have I passed since I left his side? A pillar of light has stood above the southern sea for some time now, just as he predicted. That leaves little room to doubt his second prediction will hold true. Within the coming days, the vessel and friends will come here. I only pray I had the strength to stop them as I was asked to. Thinking back, the vessel followers have been with her from the start, ever since Caldisla, Agnes Oblige, vessel to the Wind Crystal. I never imagined that young girl I met on that pier would bear such a fate. And 'tis Aurora. For the boy I pulled from that canyon river to become a guard and ally to the vessel on journey. It seems on so many counts, I bear the fault for all of this. A long, harsh journey to ease the great chasm. A vessel who crossed the putrid sea in stagnant air to arrive. A boy whose name was swallowed. In retrospect, they seem a mutual pair, inevitable even. Inevitable. An idea. I expect you too will join the wrestler here. You are ever a tomboy, capricious, pure and stubborn, quick to tears. Perfect. I know not what it is you see in the vessel. What spark resonate within you? But I swear this now, I will keep you safe at any cost. The ship's siren has begun to sound, and the pilot's taken her up just as planned. The time has come then. This may be the last entry I'm able to write. I'm removing India's picture from its frame and placing it within these pages. I want it by my side. Alright, well that is the journal. And I don't want to... I am getting to about an hour here, but there is one thing that I want to check that I haven't checked yet. I haven't checked Grand Ship. And what do I mean by I haven't checked Grand Ship? I haven't gone in it. I mean, you think that it might be weird that we're flying Grand Ship and yet there's a Grand Ship here, right? I mean, come on, this is weird. So... the war has been going on so long, my heart is with the shield bearers. I've done my share of traveling, but I never seen it sit but on this deck of a ship save here.
Hey, you there! Is this how you treat all your customers?
There is story here.
Oh, put a plug in that old woman. We ain't open yet. You come in here saying me ale's too expensive, call me place to dump, and then say that the Sea Slug's an awful name for a tavern.
I think it's a good name.
What business is it of yours, you old hag?
Oh, well, excuse me for disturbing you when you're clearly so busy. I shan't bother coming back. That's, we're leaving.
What's going on? The proprietress wanted to find out what the drunken pig was like in this world.
Let's just say things aren't how she's used to. Even the name's different.
I'd take my drunken pig over this any day for her.
Seeing the guy running the place, I don't fancy slaking my thirst in there either.
Too right.
Oh my god, Praline's here! Look at this! Oh, that's so cool! The sea slug. The proprietress sure got angry. Well, she is rather attached to the old drunken pig, you know. Must have been a shock to see a beloved tavern being run like that. What would possess anyone to name a tavern the Sea Slug? Who knows, but it could be one of those places popular with the local crowd. The type with a cacareous proprietor, dry-hard patrons, and a sudden refusal to serve strangers. No, I think not. The only clean area here was around the proprietor. The knives, cutting boards, even the bar stools, they were all covered in dust. And the menus should have been filled with sea spaghetti, but all I could see was some dried nuts and dried meats. You two sure have some sharp eyes. Hee hee, well, I guess it's just those things that you don't, Tiz. You mean food, right? Oh, what did you say, Vingabell? Yeah, none of these people know how to have fun, and this is supposed to be my big comeback. Arg. It's criminal that the Praline Alamo should be reduced to performing in this stiff. But I'll fall into any world if that's what it comes to. Seems the innkeeper's picked up some strange girl. I'm never quite myself. We have tips again! Haha, this place is filthy! Oh! Tavern's picked up a strange one this time. Ah, oh well, let her do her thing. This place is filthy and the drink prices are outrageous. It was worth it just to come and see Praline here. That was cool. I wonder if she was here in the other world. I just didn't notice because I may not have gone in that room. I don't know. I don't remember him being here. The council's at right mess of late. It's been ages since they decided on anything. Sleepy council. The Germans have more to late. We're getting fewer tours for it. Friend data has been updated. What do we got? Asper? Asper? A spear? Yeah, whatever. And can we go back here? We can go back here, but there is nothing here. Yeah, there's nothing here. Alright, my friends, well, my name is the FlightlessBird. This is your story-based gaming channel, and this is our continued blind let's play Bravely Default HD where the fairy flies. Thank you all so very much. I really do appreciate you in the next one. We'll get progress. I also will probably get the enemy skills before that as well. But there's so many enemy skills I can't get because they come from bosses. I think I'll have to check my list. But I hope you guys have a wonderful, fantastic, amazing, awesome day. And until next time, so long and take care. Thank you for watching this video. Feel free to comment on what you saw and what you'd like to see next. I always love to hear your thoughts. But before we go, please remember that you matter, and you are brilliant, and you are loved, and you should always be true to yourself. Never let the world tell you any different. Much love to you from your friendly, feathered, flightless bird.